Hello, everyone. It's me, Deplorable McAllister, aka Linda Paris. And today I have Gene Decode with me, and we're going to talk about what's happening at the White House now, this scaffolding, this mysterious structure that has sprung up right in front of the White House. Lots of activity. Someone caught some very interesting things on a camera the other night, and I have the video. But first, welcome, Gene. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to interview you.
Thank you, Linda. It's always an honor to be on your platform. Appreciate you inviting me.
Well, you always have such interesting things to say, and it's always stuff that my friend Sarge ends up coming to me with the same stuff. It's like he has a lot of military underground channels, and it's the exact same thing that I heard you saying on what was the name of that guy? We were just talking about him. He's got a Michael Jaco. That's who it is. I heard you with Michael Jaco, and you were talking about the exact same thing that Sarge and I had just talked about. So let me ask you now, can you go over what you've heard about what's happening right now at the White House and about this video that we just looked at together? And I'll show it after Gene is through talking.
So the one Linda's going to show is not the one I saw up until Linda showed it. The one I saw was the White House, and it was the 10 days of darkness where the lights were off. And towards late in the morning before sunrise, just before sunrise, you could see the porch light came on, and the porch light was kind of amber, like the amberish brown, kind of like you see street lights are in cities. And then it looked like what you see in hers, the one Linda's going to show, but with a lot more kids. There was a lot of kids. About 15 seconds, you could see them, like maybe 100 or so at least. It looks even more than that, and then even little tiny ones. And then you could see at the very end, maybe 2 or 3 adults carrying a bundle in blankets, and it looked like there might be a child. It might be a head coming out. So that's the one I saw.
So also we were talking about, and I think this is important to bring this into the conversation for those who don't know. The reason why would there be all of this stuff under the White House, right? And some people, look, we're aware of it, but a lot of people are not. And they could be hearing this for the first time and saying, well, why would there be kids under the White House? So go ahead and, we started out with the Bushes, but really it goes way back in the presidency. And it also goes to the very nature of DC and how it's built and how it's structured. So you go ahead with that, Gene.
First of all, is that other than Trump, every single president since before World War II has been cabal, black, satanic, half not human genetics or more. And so they literally feed on kids. They have to every day. And so they need that supply constantly, like David Icke said, and like I've said elsewhere, that with the Great Awakening and the increase in the Earth's frequency, I know a lot of people go, where's Gene get this crazy stuff? But this is the way it is. I mean, sorry if you don't know, but this is the way it is. To hold their shapeshift, they have to consume adrenochrome-laced blood every day now, because the energy of the Earth, and if you look at the Schumann frequency, this part you can see, the Schumann frequency is going up. And as that continues up, to hold their shapeshift, and that's why you see digitization on certain people like the young lady Clinton and those, where they start digitizing. It looks like that, but you can literally see, if people have seen my decode on Unleashed, what looks like a Draco Prime, an A Draco Prime, which is a white with the scales and everything. So to hold their shape, they have to have those. And if you remember back in Obama, they had pizza hot dog party, and we don't see trucks of anything showing up to deliver $16,000 worth
It's
a lot.
actually, Gene, it's actually $60,000.
Is it 60? I thought it was 16.
No, it's 60. I've got the email. 60.
Oh,
Actually, Gene, I think it's $68,000 worth of hot dogs that's actually in the email. But also I wanted to just say something real quick, because you mentioned the shape shifting and all of that, and I heard something on the super soldier talk that I thought was very, very interesting. And it talked about they're not shape shifting. What's happening is they really look like that. We have been for centuries, we can't see it because our actual vision has been muted, so to speak, by all of this stuff that our pineal gland, right? But there's other things too. All of our senses have been dulled and muted and we're talking about our parents and their parents before them and their parents. So we're actually being bred dumber and dumber because of the stuff they're doing. So we can't see it because of this stuff. So then as this stuff clears up and the earth starts to vibrate at a different rate, they can't cover it up anymore, or it's all happening in our heads, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Actually, it is both. First of all, we've been bred, and then fluoride has been laced into everything so the pineal stays calcified. Also, there's ways to use your regular eyes if you learn convergence and divergence vision, where you can start to see it as well. But also, you have to have the ability to screen your mind so that they can't get in your head and make you see what they want you to see. So that's another part. And we used to have the ability to not have that happen, where they got in our heads. And then, part of that's the mentality. They've gotten in our heads and given us their mind. This microwave mentality is I want it and I want it now and all that kind of stuff. And then additionally, they do also need the blood to not completely shift into where it gets so much shifted that even the mind control won't work. So all of those are, but definitely with $68,000 of pizza and hot dogs, we should see semis pulling up, not vehicles. That's a lot. So the reason you don't see that, that's a payoff to the cabal upper families for the supplies that are already down there. They're paying their price to use what's down there, what was down there. And what was down there, I won't describe it, it's too horrific, but just say a lot of young people in horrifically the worst possible thing you could possibly imagine, and then multiply that out a bit for how terrible what they're doing down there to children was. So, excuse me, I gotta drink some water.
And while you're doing that, I wanted to kind of ask a question, because we talked about this earlier and the question did come into my mind. We were talking about the layout of DC and the ley lines, but also in talking about the Notre Dame thing, the fire where they had killed 666 kids. They sacrificed them there all the time to feed the land with the blood. And is this essentially what is happening in DC underneath this White House, where there are body parts and blood and just corpses and dying children? And this is all feeding that
yeah, it's like DC, exactly, Linda. DC is built on specific ley lines at specific latitude and longitude, all of which, if you know the gematria and the math, the math of it, the sacred math of it, and then invert that sacred math, you always invert for Satanism. So you invert that mathematics and then you get satanic math. And so it's all built, every single street, its location, the Capitol building, the Supreme Court, Congress, Senate, every building is satanic, where it is, how it's built, its address, every single thing. Then under every single street, every single building, there's tunnels and little caves and stuff where they have all of this stuff so they can create this energy to, this foreign country in the middle of the US so that they can then ensnare the US into their black satanic magic, blood magic system. That is the whole goal.
And I also was listening to some of the super soldiers talk about well, they were talking about a lot of different technology and stuff, but they were also talking about this old school type of with the kids being tortured, and they're feeding off this energy, because they need that energy because of these. I couldn't quite get it out. Were they trying to contact archons through this energy that these children create during these
Yep.
rituals? And so the more the child screams, the more terrified the child is, the more energy can bring the archon down into our dimension.
Yeah, so how that works is that what they're doing, if you get the ley lines, you get the layout, you get the streets, like DC isn't just a pentagram and a hexagram and an owl, and the male organ of
Virus.
false god, and then the female organs of that false god's mate, plus the Tau cross, plus the sigil of Satan, plus, I mean, there's so many things inlaid. Then with that in there, in those caves and tunnels down under there, under every single street, and layers of this, by doing that and creating the screaming and the torture and the blood and the death and the incredible, I mean, down there, then you actually start to open up portals, and you don't bring them down, you bring them up. So you're bringing them up from lower levels of evil.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they are down. They are lower dimensional. They are in the lower dimensions, and they feed off this negative energy, gives them strength enough to come
pull out, pull up out of the pit.
Yeah, does it do both? Does it open the portal, number one, but also they feed off of it so they can pull themselves in?
Yep. It actually, that was like what they were doing in Notre Dame. They needed to get Lucifer out of the pit, but he's a big, huge thing of energy being. So you need a big, huge hole. And so they, for smaller archons and things like that, you just need a hole for, one or two kids sacrifice size. But for somebody being like Lucifer, you need, 666 over thousands of years. But in the case of, for all these lower level ones, they're when you go to higher density in service to God and all of creation, you're going up. But in the other case, you're going negative, fourth and fifth density negative, you're going down. It's the reverse energy. And so it's 180 degrees out of phase if you want to go into the physics of it. So they need that energy to come up into the positive densities. So they're that loose, that negative terror and fear and death and dying. And when a soul leaves a body, it actually releases an energy that they feed on as well. And that brings the demon or the demonic or the archon and the negative entities up out of the pits.
Yeah, and hence the chaos and the screaming and the pain and all the negative emotions in order to conjure these things. Well, not conjure them, but open up some place where they can get through, because they don't, everything's opposite with them. These people are, well, I think David Icke said live is actually evil.
Right.
Everything is opposite to them. In order to get to their gods, you have to go that direction. You have to become as them, I guess, or create something that they want to latch onto.
Yeah, so all of the information I heard David Icke putting out over the years came from, I heard it before, I don't know, I'm fairly sure it came from him, but because I got to talk and meet with him when I was stationed on my last tour of duty in Hawaii. Met him, and we talked from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to sunrise, almost a little after 5 a.m. And that's Jordan Maxwell. So he has back then he was doing slideshows. It was before the internet. And I had gone to a weekend of slideshows of like 8 hours of slides and going into all of this, and all this evil, that they do, like live as evil and all this. And he goes into, again, this sacred inversion into satanic magic. And he went into that and showing how the Vatican and showing how churches and showing how Notre Dame and showing how the words we use and then the Latin that they use, how that's inverted, how some of them even have learned to speak where they can speak fours. And if you were to tape them and play it backwards, they're doing backwards speech, which are incantations. So they're actually able to talk like you and I are, where if you record it, I mean, I don't know how you do that, but they can actually speak what sounds pretty much normal. There's some weird rhythm to it. Sometimes you can pick up, and some of the words seem to be off. But if you play it backwards, you record it, then it's incantations and evil and demonic names and things like, you know, Lucifer and Satan and all that stuff, and other names that are more ancient and evil that are bringing up these archons and things.